That's better. Hey, and there we go. We are live. You all right, Sam?
Hey!
Put your headphones on.
I spotted myself for the camera, so I need to,
get rid of my looking lovely. Looking lovely.
My lockdown hair. Yeah, look at this hair. Yeah.
Yeah, look at this hair.
Oh, this is the light.
How are things with you, mate?
Not too bad. It's in lockdown. It's been half term this week. So.
Oh right. Does it make any difference?
Well, two of my kids go to work because I'm a key worker. So
they go to work.
No.
Oh, there's
school.
one now. There's one now toiling away.
I'm live. I'm actually live. That, you idiot.
Oh, you idiot.
I've told them to stop streaming, so they've got nothing to do.
Oh, such respect for their father. Right, okay.
Hi.
I think it's Run VT. Before we get...
Hang on. Okay, Run the VT. I saw I've been distracted. Run
Yes.
VT.
And welcome back to the Icecast. Now, we were so distracted by your delinquent child, Sam, that we didn't get a chance to talk about our guest and who was on. So I'm going to do a little introduction. I'm very happy to welcome to the Icecast tonight Mr. Pete Woods, who is the artist on the new book, currently doing great guns on Kickstarter. How you doing, Pete? You all right, mate?
I'm good, man. Yeah, not too bad. I couldn't get my Disney Plus working this evening, so I haven't watched this week's episode of WandaVision, and I'm like,
oh,
yeah,
wow.
I watch it after these ones, so yeah, I'm glad. No, have you seen it, Shane?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Oh, no spoilers.
oh.
No spoilers. Don't worry. No spoilers.
Is it an hour long though?
No.
Long.
No.
I saw something about that as well, Sam. Like the last 3 episodes going to be an hour long or something like that. Yeah.
I think the last 2 might be, but this one might have been a tiny bit longer. Watch out for the post-credit scene as well. There is a post-credit scene, well, mid-credit scene, so which is a little bit of a major sort of plot movement.
I'm glad you told me that because I normally turn those things off because they're about 10 minutes long in themselves, you know.
That's it. Yeah, because they do like the sort of designed credits, don't they, with the music, and then they do the normal credits. Well, I think it's after the initial credits. There's like a little post-credit scene. It's a pretty cool episode, actually. But we're not here to talk about Marvel. We're not here to talk about Marvel comics. They get enough plugging. We're here to talk
about it later on.
Yeah, well, maybe we can at the end. Yeah,
but let's talk about Pete's book.
Yeah, which I believe I've been pronouncing wrong all the time. I assume
Voodoo Chille.
I thought it was
Voodoo Chille, indeed.
But you pronounced it different. You pronounced it different to that.
Yeah. So the original intention, the intention was that it would be called Voodoo Chille after the Hendrix song. You know, Voodoo Chille, yeah, cool. Set in the 60s in the Vietnam War, so Voodoo Chille, made a lot of sense. And Casey, the writer on the project, he sorted out the logo and sent it over to me. And obviously, he's in CST and we're in GMT, so about 6 hours apart. So he sent it to me about 8:30 in the evening, which was 2:30 in the afternoon for him. And he was like, "Yeah, okay, dude, check this out." I was about 3 pints in at this point, and I remember that. Hendrix in the UK, the version of Voodoo Child in the UK was called something slightly different. It's actually called Voodoo Child bracket Slight Return. But in my head, after 3 pints, I was like, "Nah, you put an extra L in it, mate. You put an extra L in it. Seriously, there's supposed to be 2 L's in Voodoo Child." And he was like, "All right, if you say so." So he went back to the designer. He was like, "Here you go, mate." I was like, "Awesome." Went home that evening, registered a domain for voodoochild.com with 2 L's, and set up a Facebook page with voodoochild.com with 2 L's, and set up an Instagram page with Voodoo Child. So yeah, it's Voodoo Child. Interestingly though, which is quite cool, we're like really influenced by Vertigo stuff like the Sandman and Hellblazer and all that sort of thing. And what I found out through Urban Dictionary, which I wouldn't recommend actually taking for a good source of truth, but it's still interesting to find like bit of like stuff, was that a child, as in a CHILLE, is like a godhead figure of a religion. So like Jesus would be the godhead figure of Christianity, for instance. So because it's all to do with voodoo and like mysticism and stuff like that, it actually works out that it's voodoo godhead, which is like works for me.
I thought it was a pipe for smoking cannabis, or am I confused? No.
Could be that as well, to be fair.
Chill. What's chillum?
Yeah, chill. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's derived from the same thing and it's just a different meaning.
Maybe they smoked so much cannabis they saw a godhead, you know. So,
so tell us a little bit about the idea behind the book, Pete. And let's have a look at some artwork, Sam.
Yeah, on it.
Cool. So it's a zombie horror war comic with a sort of heist in it as well, with a lot of voodoo going on. So
there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, like I said, we were inspired by the stuff that, like, you know, the whole Vertigo classic, 90s classic Vertigo, you know. The stuff that when I eventually felt I was a little bit too old for 2000 AD, when basically when the Greys came into 2000 AD, I discovered Vertigo. If anyone remembers the Greys in 2000 AD.
Yeah, Pete Milligan and Messamado Bellinardi. Yes.
Well pronounced.
No, it's when Tharg was replaced by Grey Aliens in 2000 AD.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So when Tharg got replaced...
I'm thinking of the Dead. That's it. They were called Greys. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
That is a
region of, I'm the 2000. Yeah. That area of 2000 AD is a bit shit. I agree.
Yeah. So when that happened, I sort of discovered I was always into American comics, but I discovered like good American comics like Hellblazer and Sandman and Preacher as well. So we were all totally influenced by that, and I've completely lost track of why I was going down that tangent to talk about that.
Well, we could.
How it came.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so the story itself is about a guy called Sam. He's a grunt in the Vietnam War, and unknown to him, he's basically half voodoo god, half human. And it's a sort of coming of age tale of him coming of age into this potential to be a deity. And him wanted to have control of his own life as well, because Baron Samedi, who we see here, basically wants to give up being the god of death and wants to get Sam to be this. But Sam doesn't know any of this in the first issue, of course, because he's just wandering around the place. His best mate, London, which I think Casey the writer named because I'm based in London. And it was like, right. Basically, he dies and he brings him back to life. So, London is like a wandering spirit inhabiting dead bodies every now and again as well. And so that's, and then in the background, then you've got a war going on between the voodoo lower. So all the voodoo pantheon or gods, so to speak, have got a war going on as well. So it's a war within a war that everyone's embroiled in. So
got you. It's an interesting backdrop that you've got, Vietnam going on, as well as all the voodoo stuff. I mean, what was the decision there? Why was that? Was that because of the? I mean, how did it evolve? Was it like you came up with the Hendrix related title and thought, oh, it's set at that time, therefore we'll make it? Or did that come afterwards? How did it sort of come about?
I met Casey through a thing that he runs called the Comics Jam. I don't know if you've heard of that at all, but basically what it is.
Facebook, is it?
Yeah, it's on. It used to be a Slack group. Now it's on Discord.
Right, Discord.
And basically, what they do is they get a load of like writers and artists together and give them challenges every week. And it's like brand new people just really interested in making comics that the like group is, and it's just a way for them to explore making stories. And I saw him advertising for a artist like 4 years ago. So I hit him up and I was like, dude, I don't mind joining. And he looked at my artwork and he was like, are you taking the piss? I was like, what? He was like, this is for amateurs and like your work's okay. I was like, well, no, I haven't, like, because to me, like I would only, at that point, I'd only been doing comics like maybe 3 years. So like, I'm an amateur, like, let me join your group. So I joined the group, got them a note, Casey. And then I had a book come in when I was working with Barry Nugent and Richmond Clements for Barry's Unseen Shadows stuff.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So I was that came in, so I didn't really get to work on it that much. And then I was working on the project that's come out recently with Marcosia with Chris Sides for the Gunrunner thing. So that was working on as well. But whilst that was all going on, because these were stories that basically had come to me fully formed, I wanted to get involved with the story from the beginning and actually help develop it properly.
Cool.
So I approached Casey. I was like, Case, are you up for like doing a story? And he was like, yeah, cool. And he already had this sort of book set in the war where he wanted to do a gunrunner-y thing. I think it was like a heist story set in the war. And I was like, that's cool, but I really love Peter Milligan and Grant Morrison and Garth Ennis, and can you do some cool stuff like that for me as well? And he was like, yeah, cool. And come up with like a couple of concepts for Voodoo. So
that's how it developed. I was just looking at the art. There was a scene earlier on where a guy loses his hand. I was wincing at that.
Cool. That's the reaction you're supposed to have.
It's like, ooh, that's good as smart.
Let me find
There's
it.
a lot of scenes. There it is. Yeah. There's a lot of scenes where people seem to be losing. Yeah, I mean that's pretty gross. So it's quite a violent.
I also see that it's not just Jimi Hendrix you're influenced by. You've got a bit of a Doors quote as well at the start.
Well, we're influenced by lots of 60s music from the time, essentially, because like, I've always listened to that sort of stuff anyway. Because I was of that generation when the Doors film was in. Like when I was in the as the kids call it these days, high school, but I still think of it as comp. When I was in my last year of comp, the Doors film was out, so that got me on a journey of like finding out more about that.
The Oliver Stone movie with
that's the one,
Val Kilmer. Yeah, I love that movie. I thought he.
Do you know more people think that Jim Morrison looks like Val Kilmer than Jim Morrison actually looks like?
Yeah.
So you say to people, "What does Jim Morrison look like?" And people will say Val Kilmer.
I saw that film. I saw the Doors film in Paris when I was out there, and then I went to see his grave afterwards. Jim Morrison.
Oh, did you? I think I saw it. I actually was on drugs when I watched it. I think I was smoking. Because it was. I think I could say that. You can't get into trouble for being on drugs when you're a kid, can you? And I think. I was on paracetamol, and I was watching. I was in college, and I was pretty out there, and to watch that movie while you're mind altered is just incredible. You just go with it, you know. And I thought the performance from Val Kilmer was absolutely brilliant. I thought he absolutely nailed Jim Morrison in his various stages of personality, you know. I thought it's not an easy role to play, is it? Because because Jim Morrison was not a constant level-headed sort of character all the time. He went through different stages, and I thought Val Kilmer did a really good job of that.
The film's helped by having great music as well.
And great music. I mean, they re-released songs, didn't they?
I watched it when I was in school, and bearing in mind that I grew up in the South Wales valleys where they have certain sorts of mushrooms, so that's the sort of stay I watched today. So
Yeah,
that's even worse.
I'm from Cardiff.
Yeah.
We've got this is the third time in a row we've had Welsh people on. This is great, Shane. Keep it up.
I was in college I was in college in Wrexham, so I was in Wales when I watched it. There you go. There's a slight Welsh connection there.
I'm from Blackwood originally, Sam. So
well, my dad is from Mustard Monach.
Okay, cool.
Wow.
So did you know the Manics then?
Strangely enough, my stepbrother was in a band called Stoned Lazy, and they all went to school with the Manics. They were in Oakdale Comp, all in the same year. And he was a bassist, and he actually got asked to be in the Manic Street Preachers when they were in school. So he had like the two bands, and he was like, "Nah, I'll stick with my mates on the Stone Lazy band. It's fine." It's like,
oh, no. God damn it! How was he to know? We've had a little comment.
You don't know these things.
Good luck, Pete, on the comic from V2A. Oh, that's from Kevin.
Cheers, Kevin. Nice one, bro.
They came on the show a few weeks ago, actually, and
there's another one
they've got a new comic out
from John Calhill.
Yeah, I was going to share this one, and I didn't understand it, and now I do. He said, "Them helmets look too small."
Fair enough. In the wrong context, that could be interesting, you know.
It was, Shane. Get your mind out of wherever it is.
Yeah, it took me a while to realise what he was on about. But then, of course, it's quite an innocent question.
It was until it went into your weird...
Into my brain.
That's exactly that. I knew exactly what he was on about as well, and they probably are, but that's what exactly my brain went straight in the gutter. To be fair, so,
well, it's what do you call it? Artistic license, isn't it? So stylization.
So there's also, I feel, you influenced by American Gods by Neil Gaiman, because there seems a lot of that, or an Anansi Boys, because there's kind of like a similar theme to that.
Totally influenced by that. I think. For artistically, my biggest influence was Preacher, which is why I've done Steve the panels Dillon. I love Steve, bless him.
You've got the panel borders, definitely.
The panel borders, they've got all that jaggedy thing. I was just like, I'm so nicking that because that's such a cool thing. And then like the minimal sort of lines I try and use as well is like Steve Dillon was like a master of the simple line, and some of my favorite artists are like Steve Dillon, Terry Dodson, all those sort of like Adam Hughes, all those guys that just get it on the line, and
I love artists like that. They do, no unnecessary, noodling. Basically, every line means something. And I got nothing against detailed
Darwin
work.
Cook.
Darwin Cook. Oh, what a master! An absolute master. Beautiful line, and so many people have sort of not copied but been inspired by that style. I think, and there's no bad thing about that. So okay, we've got a little bit of an idea about the story and where it came from and all that sort of thing. And are there any because it's set in that time, are there any sort of real life events or real life characters that have been drawn into the story or influenced the story, or like historic things that happened?
Well, strange you should mention that, because the plan is, at least the plan was, I don't know if it is, it's a very organic sort of thing we've got going on for the development of it. We've got like the first 5 issues planned out and know what's going on there, but we've got different ideas about what's happening after that. So the first 5 issues are going to be like an arc, and then we'll move on to the next 5. And my initial thought was to have each arc of the book be set in a different time period, a bit like if you remember Dark Skies, like used to move on all the time. So that sort of thing. So it just kept on moving on all the way up to modern day. And I wanted to bring in this idea of a certain ex-president of the United States, recently ex-president of the United States.
Oh, right. Okay.
Who had basically been created in a test tube.
Weren't they all?
Between and it was a cross between like some a crashed alien basically who had its brains splattered, so it wasn't completely compos mentis, and he was grown in a test tube and then like got given to what's that secret society that John Travolta's part of? Scientology. So Scientology sponsored his education and his progression to the White House. Yeah. So that's the sort of thing, if there is going to be anything, would be like that sort of.
You've got to be careful with Scientology. Haven't you got to be careful with that, though? Because don't they take
Tom Cruise will come and assassinate you.
Yeah, he'll come and beat you up. But they take it very seriously, don't they? They don't like it because they see what the Scientology is a religion, apparently. So if you take the piss out of Scientology,
it's just new.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, every other
but voodoo is also a religion, you know.
Yeah, but you're not taking the piss out of it.
As is Christianity, as is and in my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion, is that it's nice, interesting stories that were developed to control society at certain points in life, and that's the reason why we've got it.
Yep.
As evolved humans, we don't really need it anymore.
Plus time.
Cult plus time. It's a big cult with lots of people in it.
Basically,
a small religion. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And anything is to me, anything artistically, anything should be open to satire, like anything at all.
Oh, I totally agree, mate. I totally agree. Just warning you because you don't want Tom Cruise appearing at your doorstep angry. That's all.
I just be like, oh, there you are.
It's Tom Cruise is exactly the same height as me, so I want to have him. I want to have his height.
He's not that short, then.
He's 5'7". He's just.
Well, I'm 5 foot.
I thought he was like 4 foot something.
No,
he's just little. Is he just little? Sort of...
He's just 5'7". 5'7" is average height in the world.
Oh.
If you include all the women in China.
I think either my internet broke then, or your internet broke. You all did. I'm trying to work out whether it was me glitching or all of you.
We'll find out on the rewatch.
Yeah, the rewatch is going to be absolute chaos for that last minute. But yeah, so he's not that short.
It's average height if you include all the women in China.
Is that what it is? I've never thought of myself.
My jokes would be funny if there wasn't this fucking delay.
It just shows you that timing is everything, isn't it? You know, it really is. So how tall are you then, Pete? Would you class yourself as short or tall?
I'm 6 foot. I'm 6'1".
So you're a tall man. Yes. I hate being short. The main reason I hate being not short but average height is that if you go to a concert, you can't see anything because there's always loads of tall fuckers standing in front of you, and they always do. They don't care. It's like, I'm just going to stand here. I'm just going to get in your way. They don't care, and you can never see anything. I hate it.
On one hand, you've got that, but on the other hand, we've got leg room. We have we don't bang our heads on doors.
There is that,
and door frames. If you're tall enough, I've got a mate who's 6'4", and that's like massive.
That's freakish. That's just too hard.
Well, Ollie, our co-host on the show sometimes, Ollie McNamee, he's 6'4" or 6'5". Wow. He's a giant. You know, it's unbelievable.
When I walk around with him, it's like he's Ollie and his child. All right, Ollie. Yay.
Ollie and his bearded child.
Daddy, just stop walking so fast.
So I used to hate being tall when I was like younger, because I was always tall. But when I was like my 20s, I used to hate it because any of the girls that I chatted to would be shorter than me, and they'd have to look up to me. So I'd always have to make sure that my nose was like just completely clear, and like that age where you start to grow nose hair, and you're like, do I have to clip this?
You become self-conscious. It's horrible being in your 20s and self-conscious, isn't it?
Well, what would you rather worry about? Nasal hair or like
What, losing hair?
Yeah, losing hair.
That's a good question.
Don't care anymore.
Yeah, I
care.
don't. No. I just noticed
It's
that,
a good
like,
job.
as I got older, like when in your 30s, you're like, I don't care anymore. When you hit your 40s, you're just like, literally don't give it.
Yeah, you really don't care. Yeah, in your 30s, you say you don't care. In your 40s, you actually don't.
You actually don't care.
So, you were talking earlier about you'd not been in comics that long when you got involved in this project. So what brought you into comics, Pete? What was your sort of your journey in?
Well, I've always like wanted to draw comics. I was one of those teenagers that used to sit in your bedroom and like recreate stuff out of comics. Sit there night after night. All your mates would be out on the Raz. But I used to do that as well. But what used to happen to me was I'd get grounded constantly every 2 weeks. So I had this paper round, and my parents used to ground me because every time they ungrounded me, I'd saved up all my money from my paper round, and I'd go out and get completely legless and spend like 30 quid in like an evening and like a weekend, and then I'd leave like Saturday afternoon, come home Sunday like evening, and I'd be like completely legless, and they'd be like, right, you're grounded. So in those 2 weeks when I was grounded, I used to sit in my bedroom and just draw comics constantly, which was interesting because, like, it was a great practice. But then life happens. You leave home, you go to university. I studied animation at university as well, so like I still wanted to do the whole comics thing. But then, I just never actually pursued anything after my degree. And then about 10 years ago, I was just like, why am I just not doing it? It's just one of those, why am I not doing it? And started doing it, and drew like a page at first, drew like short stories, and did like research into it, the best way to actually approach doing it. And then I went, got a portfolio together and went down to Bristol Comic Con. It was the last one, my first Bristol Comic Con, but it was the one where it was the last one by the train station.
Oh, I remember that. Was that about 2009, something like that?
Mine was 2000. It's about 2009, 10, I'd say. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
The Bristol ones were great.
Oh, it was such a good con. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I was nervous when I went to my first con because it was my first con, but it was also the first time taking a portfolio anywhere.
And who did you see?
I saw everybody. I waited patiently, and then I saw Dave Lloyd, John Higgins, Ian Gibson, Roller Girls guy, forget his name.
Oh, Gary.
Yeah, Gary Erskine. Basically, all your heroes from 2000 AD. I just they were in a line down Artist Alley. I just queued up slowly and went, "What do you think? Any feedback?" And then I got to John, and I'd had good feedback, and they were like, "Yeah, you got some good stuff going on here." And John I went, "John, do you know anyone that's looking for anything?" And he pointed over to Jim Alexander, and me and Jim started working together, and then I approached Dave Evans for Future Quake, got a couple of things in there as well, and then it just started snowballing from there slowly, So.
That's a good way for a lot of people, I think, to get into it, is to just submit small stories to anthologies and things like that. A guy, I can't remember who it was, but I was on a Facebook group recently, and they were sort of saying, how do I break into comics? And it's like, that's that wide question, isn't it? It's like, well, what depends what you want. What do you want to do? Do you want to make it a career? Do you want to have some fun? Do you want to gradually learn the craft? Where are you at? It's such a loaded question with so many different answers, And my response is always, if you're just getting into it and you're still learning the craft, just submit to some anthologies, start working with people, work from different types of scripts. I don't know about you, Pete, when because you've done a few different things now. Have you noticed the different writers lay out their scripts and direct the action in different ways?
Oh, they totally do. And what's interesting is that most of the time I just totally ignore it. And that whole thing with the Alan Moore sort of scripts, where people like Ian Gibson basically working with Alan Moore was just like, I know what you want. I'm going to draw it, but I'm going to ignore these like
This
so. Yeah, one of my pet peeves is when you get a script and the writer's like, so we want a thin panel and then a quarter panel, and I think you've dropped. Somebody's dropped. No, you're still there. And you get like a thin panel. There's a writer going, I want a thin panel, I want a quarter panel, and it's just like, no, leave the visuals to me. I know what story you want to tell. Give me the image description, but like leave the layouts. You know, that's what the trade I've been like practicing. So you know.
There are some artists, aren't there, that do like to not artists, sorry, writers who do like to micromanage their scripts, you know, and they will say, oh, in this panel, this happens from this angle. And you think, well, just draw it yourself then if you're
basically.
if you're that fussed about it. Let the artist be the artist and be the storyteller. But I found there's so many different schools in writing like that. I mean, my idea is I would go with the loosest possible script ever. You know, I think the more you let the artist do their job and tell the story, the better result you will get. The more movement, the more flow. You know, let them be the storyteller. You know, but you know, there's some great writers out there who write in that way.
Totally. Like the script from Richmond was absolutely brilliant, and the script from Chris Sides as well, absolutely brilliant. Casey is a dream to work with, because the way me and him work is he'll do the script and he'll send it over to me, and then I'll start doing the thumbnails, and he's totally open to me feeding back and actually helping develop the story and putting stuff in where it's needed. So like. We're working on issue 2 at the moment, and he sent over the script, and I'm like, he's got like a 6-panel layout, and I'm like, that could do with a page by itself. That could be 2-panel page, and he's like, okay, cool. You know, do you think it'll look good? I'm like, yeah, it'll look shit hot. So,
that's really good. Yeah, because we were going to have Casey on, weren't we? But unfortunately, his employers are making him go and do overtime.
Yeah, well, America's been hit with some, like, as we probably saw in the news, like really mental snow, and he lives in Texas. He lives in Alabama, so like not that far from Texas. So he's been hit with it as well, and basically his company he didn't go in on Monday and Tuesday, and then his boss was just like, yeah, you can work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning, extra hours to make up for it. It's like, all right, cheers. So. Yeah, but he does send his apologies.
I mean, it's a bit different.
He could have been,
yeah. Oh, it would have been lovely to chat with him, but you know, it's literally an act of God, isn't it? If you believe in God,
basically.
So we'll let him off for that one. So I don't know, Sam, have you got access to the Kickstarter so we can have a look at it and see what's on offer? Or do you want me to do it? I've got it. I could share it.
Okay,
I can share it. Yeah, I can share it.
I need to leave the studio before doing it. So, what comics do you read at the moment, then, Pete? Are you into anything at the moment?
The latest things I've been reading. What have I been reading? I've been reading Paper Girls.
That's
Paper Girls is good.
But that's excellent. Yeah.
Oh, what else was I reading? I was reading. My brain is shot.
Not heard that one.
Good title.
Is that by Al Ewing or something?
It's a Kirkman book about aliens. And the guy who gets a wormhole through to another planet. Oh. It's a really cool book, but I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, I can't think of what that is.
It's basically it starts off with like half of a city gets disappeared and goes into a different universe, and then like a number of people in that city actually go over as well. It's got amazing artwork and coloring as well.
It's not called something like Oblivion, is it, or something like that? I remember a Kirkman book called Oblivion that I haven't read, so I think it might be that one. Oh, that's weird. But he's got a lot of output. I've started reading the one he's doing with Chris Samney, who is another great artist I love.
Chris Samney.
What's it?
Is that
What's it
the
called?
one? No.
Firepower. Is it called?
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really good. Chris Samney is just such a good storyteller. If you like somebody who's
Die. That's another Kirkman book, isn't it?
It wasn't that. Oh, I don't know. I can't see anything at the moment because I've got Kickstarter on the screen. So, so I'm really impressed, Pete. Fully funded in 12 hours. That's damn quick.
It's absolutely bonkers, to be fair.
Yeah, and you've pretty much doubled the goal already.
Yeah. I launched it last Thursday, 8 o'clock. Saw some backers come in. I was like, ooh, I'm really excited. And then it was like, got about 12:30 at night. I was like, right, I need to go to sleep. Like, okay. And it was already going really strong. I woke up like 8 o'clock the following morning, and yeah, it was funded. I was like, oh, what the?
So that quickly, is that maybe you asked for too little? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I mean,
well, it depends how much you need, doesn't it?
Well, that was based on me calculating a print run of 100. That's the way I figured it out. I was like, figure out what the cost of 100 comics is going to be, figure out what it's going to be to post to the US as well, because we got obviously a load of backers in the US, and that was the biggest part for me to try and figure out. To be fair, was the cost of posting and stuff for the US, because of Brexit as well. I was like, what is going on with everything? Like, how am I supposed to cost this? So what I ended up doing was actually sending Casey 3 different packages similar to what would actually be as the reward. I just took them down to the post office, posted them off, and I was like, okay, cool. Now I know how much that would be to post to America. So
good idea. Good. Always good. I mean, anyone doing a Kickstarter, as you would say, I mean, we talk about Kickstarter a lot on here because obviously a lot of the publishers we talk to are doing it through a Kickstarter. But I would always say to people, make sure you get that postage spot on, because the amount of people I know who have lost money on Kickstarter, even though they've gone well over their goals, because they have not taken into account overseas postage. It's an app. So well done on that. That's a victory in itself, isn't it?
The other thing I wanted to do with this Kickstarter as well was make sure the digital comic version was at a reasonable price. I hate seeing it; really grinds my goat seeing Kickstarters when you get a digital package and it's like $6 or £6 to get a PDF. It's like, what sort of planet are you on? There's no overhead charges for you. You've already done the work. You've got the Kickstarter going on for the printed versions. Don't be greedy. It's like that's just pure greed, because it's all profit, Yeah,
definitely.
No one's gonna choose the cheap. Go, I was gonna buy this, but because the digital's so cheap, I'll just go for that. If people want it, then they'll buy the digital. If they'll buy the full version. So I agree. There's no point in trying to recoup your money.
Yeah, and I think that's been you can see here, like, you've got as many backers on the first print edition almost as you have on the digital edition. So it doesn't make people want it, they're going to go for it, aren't they? That's quite good as well. On the printed edition, you get the book and the digital anyway, and a wallpaper, and your name in the book. A lot of creators, I've noticed, do the name in the book thing as quite late on, that you have to pay quite a lot, but it's there in the first reward. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
to me, again, it was a bit of a no-brainer. It's like, you're giving like us your money for a product, and you should have your name in the book, because it's cool. So look what I've done. I've helped these people get their book together. It's cool. It's well worth it,
It is nice. I must admit, I do like seeing my name in the books when I get them. We did an interview with Tim Pilcher and his creators on a book that I can't remember their names off the top of my head now. But I just got the book the other day, and it was beautiful. Really nicely put together book, and my name was in the back. He was like, "Oh, there you go." You can see that you've had that little input to the creation of the book, even though you had nothing to do with
it. Yeah, I recently we were talking earlier on about conventions and stuff, and I found all my old UCAC conventions, the UK CAC ones from the 80s and 90s.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And I'm in. My name's in it as well because it's got a list of all the guests. And you go down there and you can see your name, and then you can see lots of like people who became famous in a comic world later on, just in the same thing. It's brilliant. And I can see I drew my drew around it and pointed arrows around it when I so having your name in a book, and later on, it's kind of it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, especially back then. I think it meant a hell of a lot back then, didn't it? I'm just looking at the stretch goals as well. 2 unlocked already.
Yeah, so we've got the badges and the fridge magnet, because fridge magnets are always cool. I had a conversation with, we had this thing in work the other day. It was like, what's your secret thing you always get when you're on holidays? And mine is a fridge magnet. Like my fridge at home, literally tons.
Yeah, my missus has that as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a fridge and everyone lives in a magnetic field. So no.
We do indeed. That's a good observation, that Sam. So yeah, that's really cool. I like the designs as well. They're really nice.
Cheers, man. I'm really hoping the next one gets funded, because this is my Dave Mack sort of Sikenswick. Sinkovich, there we go. Homage. If you scroll down further, you can see like a full-size image.
I was going to say there's a full-size one, isn't there? Yeah, that's really nice. So it's a play on the cover, and you've sort of done some watercolor modeling. Have you done that by hand, or is that a digital manipulation?
That's a digital thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I wish I could do stuff like that by hand. Yeah.
Oh, you just need a bit of water and a brush. That's all, mate. It's a dottle, honestly. That's really nice. I like that. And how big is that print?
That would be A4, but it's going to be on like Geistly, sort of Gistly, however you say it. GICL. Nice watercolor paper, because you get prints all the time for Kickstarters. But they're nice prints, but I'm like, I always like to think of the value that people can get from stuff,
Yes.
And offering that value, and it doesn't cost.
Doesn't cost a lot more.
It doesn't cost a lot. Hey, Marco.
No.
Hey,
doesn't cost a lot more to.
Marco works in my local comic shop. How you doing, Marco? Nice to see you.
Just having a nose.
Because we got lockdown now, the comic shop's shut. So I get Marco to bring my comics home with him. I pick it up from Marco. So cheers, mate. They're great. Thanks.
Nice.
It's like buying drugs in the 80s, in the 90s. Go bring up, get someone's hat. Yeah, it's all right if I come around and pick it up. Like,
Now it's comics.
Brown
comics
paper bag.
New contraband.
But now the only difference is today you can pay with PayPal in advance, so you don't have to do the old.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I really like these.
Hi, Marco.
Yeah, hi, Marco. Thank you for that. Thanks for helping Sam out with his comics.
And he's got a habit that needs feeding, So
we've got a little bit of information here about some of the people who've contributed. Dave Taylor, artist and rock. Oh, I didn't know he was involved.
No, he's not involved. That's just some nice social proof from Dave Taylor.
Oh, right. I see now. Yes, I'm being dumb. Excuse me. Isn't that a nice little comment from Dave there? I love Dave. He's a lovely guy.
I've known him for about 2 years now.
Dave's comment?
I'll go back to it now. There you go. You're going to read it in his accent, are you, Sam?
No, I don't see it. I don't see his comment.
Oh, you can't see the screen?
What?
No, you stopped sharing the Kickstarter page.
Oh, did I?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's Sam that is messing about. You kicked it off. All the time, I thought I was sharing this and talking about what I could see, and you kicked me off the bloody share.
Well, when Marco's comment came up, it hid our guess. So I was making sure our guess was visible.
Right. Have you put the screen back on now, Sam, so that people actually know what I'm talking about? Yes, and I'm still sharing it. And I'm still sharing it.
Oh, come on, Shane. Do you want me to do it?
I'll stop sharing it then. There you go. I'm back.
Now share it, Diane.
This is what I have to contend with, you know.
This is why there's a technical person. Yeah.
This is what. Well, he doesn't get paid, so you know, so can't really get too angry. You know,
I do it for love.
He does it for love, don't you, Sam? So let's see if I can get this back again.
And the abuse.
Oh, you love the abuse, Sam. You know you do.
He loves the abuse. That's why he comes here. Right, share screen. Here we go. Chrome tab. Share. There we go. Has it come back now? I've shared it now.
There we go. Happy days.
Yay. So, yeah. So here we are. Dave Taylor, artist and writer, Wild Nature. Voodoo Chille blends the grimy, gritty war genre to something creepier and darker than anything you might find in the jungle. It's got a great premise, sharp art, and the sort of atmosphere you can breathe in while you read. That's a good comment. I like that.
I know. I like that. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah. Is that another cannabis reference?
Breathe while you read. Yeah. There's a lot of cannabis references tonight on this show, is it? That's great stuff.
It's been over like 25 years since I touched the stuff as well. So
was it? And it's still affecting you.
I know, right?
Let's have a look what Pete said about himself. I love these. They're great. I love embarrassing people with their own sort of CV. I've been involved with the UK independent comic scene for a number of years and have illustrated for many of the UK's small press anthologies, including Zarjaz, Futurequake, and more recently Brawler for Time Bomb Comics. We had Steve on last week talking about it wasn't Brawler we were talking about the other one,
the Flintlock.
yeah which I quite like
the
concept. Keeping the Welsh theme. So in 2015 I self-published Strange Stories of Fantasy Fiction, a collection of short stories that have been published in various anthologies. So where were they? Where can we see those, Pete? Are they still around?
Yeah, I've got about 3 copies of that left. I got about 20 printed for the first Cheltenham Comic Con.
Right, yeah.
That's how long ago we're talking. I think it was about that time anyway. You know, I'm very loose on the dates of things because, you know.
Did you have a stall? Did you have a stall in Cheltenham?
I did, yeah, and I was selling like Strange Stories and like a couple of prints as well. And basically, it was all the stuff that I'd done in Zarjaz and Futurequake and stuff. I put into my own anthology because I was like, Dave, do you mind if I print these? He's like, yeah, go. Yeah.
And you had one as well, Shay. You had a stall in Cheltenham, didn't you?
Do you know? I don't think I've actually ever had a stall there. No, I've been there to visit as a punter. But no, I didn't have a stall. I was probably one of the only people in the small press world who didn't. Everybody was there. I had a really nice experience there, actually. I went to a stall and there was a guy, I can't remember his name. So if you're watching or listening, I do apologize. And I went and I picked up some Bronze Age stuff from this seller. And it's stuff that I really, you know, what I wanted, you know. And I picked it up and it was only about 4 or 5 comics and it come to about, I don't know, 10, 20 quid or something like that. And I went to pay for it, and the guy said, "You can have them." And I was like, "Oh, well, thank you, but why?" And he said to me, "I want to say thank you for putting on ice, you know, and doing what you do." And I was all choked up, you know.
Yeah.
Somebody actually cared enough. Somebody actually, you know, had such a positive experience at one of the shows that they would give me comics for free. Oh, that's really nice.
Well, that's it. People care about it. You do it for love. I mean, you definitely don't do it for money.
So well, no, because you don't make any money. No, that's for sure.
No, but you do it for love, and that's it. That's what he recognised. Absolutely.
He must have done. But that was a nice experience at that show. It's a nice memory, you know. And I must say, it was a very friendly event, that one. I found it a very friendly, welcoming sort of event. How did you find it, Pete?
It was my very first con where I ran a table by myself, and I travelled down from London with the missus, and I found it very tiring, but very rewarding. But I didn't see. There didn't seem to be. Like I said, this was the very first one, so it didn't seem to be that much. Not to sound like an apprentice person, but it didn't seem to be that much footfall. So
right.
Yeah. So, but then again, it was like I didn't know. Like, even though I've worked in sales before, I didn't know how to actually sell my comics because like everything just went out of the window, and it was just like, yeah, I got my comics. Cheers.
It's a
Like,
different,
rather than just talking about
thing,
it and being like, this is something I'm enthused about, and this is something I
selling,
love. It's just like,
selling comics. Yeah, it's really different, isn't it, to selling anything else? In some people say, oh, if you can sell, you can sell. It's the same whatever you sell. But I think with comics, it's a little bit different.
You're selling something you care about. So I mean,
yeah, it's part of you, isn't it?
What I mean, if your car you're selling gets turned down, it's like, so what? The next person, but if someone looks at it and goes, oh, I don't like that, and that's it's hurtful.
You've created it.
Thankfully, I was with Steve, mentioning Mr. Tanner again there, for the Brawler issue 1 launch. And right. I was tabling with him for the launch of Brawler issue 1, and I learned a lot that I've clocked up there for the next time I actually get a table. So
Steve has got great experience, and he's been selling comics very successfully for a very long time. So yeah, a really good guy to learn from. He's a very good guy to be around, actually, because he's done well. I've gone to cons where he's been there as a seller, and I actually went to one that he organised as well in Birmingham. Yeah, and
in the cricket ground.
It's nice. It's a nice event. Yeah, which is where ICE is going to be going forward. Yeah, we're going to be at the cricket round, because I liked that venue, and loads of people said to me, loads of sellers, loads of exhibitors said, go there because it's really good. There's loads of parking. It's really easy to unload our stuff. And it's like, well, at least the exhibitors will be happy.
The big hall as well. The big hall is really good.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to be using, the large with the big windows. Because I really like that, because there's a lot of light. Because a lot of conventions, you go in and there's a hall with no windows and it's really dark. So artists are like, oh, this is not very nice for drawing, But these massive windows in the big hall at the cricket ground let in absolutely loads of light. It's absolutely brilliant for artists, like yourself, who like to sit at the table. I mean, is that something that you do at cons? Is it, Pete? Do you sit at table and do some drawing, or is it all about selling?
I do drawing, but then when you do it, it's because I've done them generally by myself, or I've because I've done a Demon Con. I did that a couple of times, like by myself, and it's a weird thing, because it's like, if I draw, I know I'm going to attract people to come over and go, "What are you doing? What's that?" But then, how do you chat to people and draw at the same time? It's like, and go, see this, that's my book. Buy that. But because they're too busy going. But then, if you don't draw, you don't get the people to come over, and you're just like, all right, yeah, cool, enjoying yourself, yeah, wicked, yeah. So,
that's
one thing I'm interested in talking about ICE though. Talking about ICE there, Shane. One thing I'm interested in is, are you going to be doing the Comics Uncovered stuff again? Because when I went to that a couple of years back, I really enjoyed it.
You enjoyed that, yeah. Well, that's been swallowed up now by the event that I do in Shrewsbury. So it's not called Comics Uncovered specifically anymore, because it was just really difficult to run that as part of ICE, because ICE is a smaller show than Shrewsbury, and Comics Uncovered is really expensive to put on, because you've got all these professionals that you've got to pay for their time and their hotels and their meals and all that sort of stuff. And you don't get, people said that, oh, that ticket's really expensive. It's like, no, it isn't. It's really cheap, because for that level of what you're getting, this isn't like a normal convention. This is like a real conference.
There's no tables or dealers as well. It's literally just that. You can't.
It was great. I got to chat to Mike Martz from Aftershock. Got to meet Monty Nero, and like a couple of other people I just sat down, had a beer with, talked about comics, talked about careers, and it was amazing. It was well worth the money, So I wouldn't say it was expensive, because it was worth the money. The value that you got from it, again, like I said, the whole value-based proposition thing is the value you got from it was just totally outweighed everything else,
Yeah, and that was always the intention, you know. And I think what was hard was the fact that for normal Congoers, this was a new concept, you know, an event that was all about the getting into the industry side of things, you know. And a lot of people just didn't get it. They just thought, well, 65 quid, I think it was for the weekend, and it was like, oh, that's quite a lot for a convention ticket. It's not a convention ticket. It's more than that, but it was quite a hard sell. But people like yourself who got it, it was fine. You know, they loved it. They realised how value it was, and they got so much out of it. You know, the amount of people I spoke to got a hell of a lot out of Comics Uncovered. But
do you think it was possibly just the audience was slightly like now with Kickstarter, and especially after the pandemic and everything as well? Like you've got so many more people just going, yeah, I'm going to make my comics. So to me, the audience or the amount of people doing Kickstarters and the amount of creatives in the UK going, yeah, I can do this. I can put stuff out there and give it a go. Maybe now there's a bigger market for that rather than just like the comic goers. And
we might have been a bit ahead of our time by quite a considerable amount. And the other thing is as well, a lot of people said, oh, can you do it online? And back then it was like, well, not really, because the whole point is that you meet these people and you get first hand. But of course, now you can do that online, and you can do it quite cheaply. But you still got to get those professionals involved. They've still got to buy into it. So it takes some working out. And I think we'll probably do some online stuff as part of ICE, but also as part of Comics Salopia. Because the Comics Uncovered is now in the Comics Salopia zone. So we do have, we had IDW at the 2019 Comics Salopia, and we had some other editors as well. And it was great. You know, we really had some good portfolio review stuff going on and some good events going on. So we're going to build it on that side of things, I think.
Nice, man. Yeah, hit me up when that gets going again, because I'll definitely be interested in attending.
I will. But as I was saying, we want to do some online stuff. It was big, wasn't it? It was a lot. It was a lot to manage, you know. That festival
spread out as well. So,
but we're going to do it again because
venues were there.
Yeah,
Shane?
12 venues altogether. We worked it out the other day because we're applying for an arts grant to do something similar. We worked out it was 12 venues, which was probably a bit too many. Yeah. You know, you're trying
to march through a cosplay march through the town at the end.
Oh yeah, that was fun. And the zombie walk. We did a zombie walk as well. I've got a film of that actually. It was really good. All the people dressed as zombies walking through the town. And of course all the normies were like, what the hell is this? Because it was just a normal Saturday in the middle of rural Shropshire town, you know. They don't get that many zombie walks, you know. But it was great because it was like people who'd never experienced comics outside of what most normal people would experience comics, you know, their newsagent, you know, they might see the Beano, and that's about it, you know. But they actually got exposed to lots of different types of comics, which is what it was all about, you know. I think you'd have really enjoyed it if you'd have come along. So.
You had Scott McCloud as well, didn't you?
Scott
McCloud. I did not realize you had Scott McCloud. I love that dude.
Oh, we had some huge names. So we had Scott McCloud, Frank Whiteley. Obviously, we had Charlie Adlard because he's local. We had Christian Ward, John Wagner.
The guy who designs the Jurassic Park?
Chip Kidd. He was amazing.
Chip Kidd. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, Sam. That's a hell of a delay. But we had some huge names. It was absolutely brilliant weekend. But I think I lost about a stone walking around town to all the different venues. Like, people would be on the radio. Go on.
I've never organised a conference, but just the logistics of 12 venues, like just to a layman, I'm like,
fair play.
We
learned a lot of lessons. We learned a lot of lessons. We didn't get everything right, you know, because I'm used to organising like ICE, which is one venue, you know, or maybe two, you know. But yeah, when you've got 12, I had great help, amazing help.
The guy from Antique Roadshow, and the guy from Antiques Roadshow opened it as well, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Oh, there was an auction.
Yeah,
That's right, on the Friday.
With the mayor.
So much went on, Pete, honestly. Yeah. We had the
You
mayor,
forgot about
excuse me. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot, man. It's all a blur. I was just drinking alcohol at that time. So have you got any ambitions? You're looking forward to going to some more conventions once this thing clears? Pete?
Yeah, hopefully. The plan is to get hopefully with the way the Kickstarter has been performing at the moment, which hopefully it continues as well. The plan is to get the second issue out by June. So the plan is and this is where we come into logistics and whether or not this will work. But the plan is for people to have the copy of Voodoo Chille issue 1 in their hands for May, June. And the Kickstarter launch for issue 2 to be happening in July. So that then come around October time, where I can start tabling, have issues 1 and 2 there, bring along some pages, that sort of thing. And then Casey's going to be doing a similar sort of thing on the US side as well. So just both of us building the brand from both sides of the Atlantic, so.
Yeah, and like you were saying before, about building it up with like all the different issues. You've got these plans quite far ahead in the future. It's ambitious, so you do need to build that following, don't you, of loyal readers. Yeah,
and it's just it's just a reader at a time. I also do a newsletter weekly as well, which generally consists of me talking about development with Voodoo Chille. But with that one, Barry Nugent, again, Unseen Shadows, check out his books, very good. The graphic novel I worked on with him called Chimera Factor, which is on Comixology. Sorry, I'm just being a salesman there. But
this is what it's all about. Plug your stuff. Plug your stuff.
He was kind enough.
Shane every week to plug his channel.
Barry was kind enough to give me permission to let me use Chimera Factor digitally as a free giveaway, essentially. So if you sign up to my newsletter, you actually get an 80-page graphic novel that I've worked on, and then you can just become part of my newsletter and find out about all the cool stuff I'm up to. So
that is so cool. I mean, I know Barry really well. He's a good friend of mine. They did a live podcast from Bix, which was the first convention that I did in around about 2006, 2007. They Barry and Dave, but they're regulars at ICE as well. They do they host events for us, and Barry is really quite a talented chap, with his writing and stuff. And
he's a standard gentleman.
I would recommend his book, to anybody. Oh yeah, he's lovely.
He's a top.
Guy.
He's a top.
They both are. They're both lovely lads. Yeah. I love those guys to bits. I really do. It's like they are so genuine. Yeah, lovely guys. So we've gone past the hour. I don't know how that happened. It just seemed to just slip away. But,
as these things do. Time flies and all that,
when you're having fun. Yeah. But I really like the look. I really like the look.
We'll make sure that you pop down and give us a like on the YouTube channel and subscribe if you want to see the next one. Hopefully, we'll have another Welsh person on. I hope, Shane. Keeping the Welsh theme.
Well, I don't know. We've had a lot of Welshies lately. We might have to, let some other nationalities in.
And also, if you're watching this on Switch or any of the other media platforms, what you do on Switch? Give us a Switch like or something. Anyway,
I don't know how Twitch works.
I haven't got a clue on Twitch.
You sound like such an old person. Like, on Twitch.
The Twitch.
It's called Twitch. The Twitch.
If you're watching on the Twitchy, then make sure you follow us or you like it.
Do whatever you do on Twitch.
Do whatever you do. Give us a tweak. Give us a tweak. A twitch on Twitch.
An itch.
And and like
And it
And share this
scratch,
with
give
anyone
us a
who.
scratch on Twitch.
Yeah, give us a scratch. There's the admin chain.
But yeah, please do, guys. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
no, but
thank
please
you very
do.
much
Please do.
for joining.
You know.
Yeah,
And
it's
thank
been
you,
awesome.
Pete, for
Cheers,
being our
gents.
guest tonight.
It's been
Yeah,
it's
absolutely
been really,
a hoot.
despite
Thank you
the
so much.
delays, it's been really good to talk to you, and all the best with the book.
Cheers, man.
And hope the series is a huge success. And we'll come back again sometime, and we'll talk all about it again.
Yeah, I'll chat to you with issue 2 in June, July time. So all being well.
Thanks, Pete.
Great
Excellent.
Nice one. Cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot, Pete.
Bye.
Run VT, Sam.
Are we running VT
Bye,
or are we
mate.
just ending it?
Yeah, run it. Yeah, come on.
Bye.